In today's episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast, I sit down with the head skipper of your Kansas baseball team, Dan Fitzgerald, as we preview the upcoming 2025 season.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy JD6 here. I'm with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man.
All right, we're now sitting down here with head baseball coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, Dan Fitzgerald. Coach, thanks again for coming on. This is the second preseason year in a row I've had you on the podcast. Appreciate you coming on, and looking forward to a third year with you and another exciting season. How's it going?
It's good, Keegan. Thanks for having me on. We're hard to believe the season's here, and hard to believe it's been 2 full years already. So we're excited. We've come a long way in a relatively short amount of time, and excited about the program, where we're at, and can't wait to play a game. You get to a spot where you have to play someone wearing a different uniform, and we're definitely getting there.
Yep. Well, there's still snow on the ground, and it's still a little chilly out there. Last year when we were talking, it was starting to warm up, but it's definitely still full on winter. But that doesn't mean you guys stop at the baseball, because you're about 4 weeks away from the season. How do you guys get any action in right now when the ground's just hard as a rock and frozen solid?
Yeah, it's it's disappointing right now because we have brand new turf under that snow that's sitting out on our field right now. Now I'm really hopeful today and tomorrow that it's going to melt. And the good news about turf is once the sun hits it, you got so much crushed rubber in it that it can heat up a little bit faster than regular grass. So I hope we get some melting and we're able to get out and take some ground balls. But we've got some resources. We go into Anschutz. We've got a net inside the track at Anschutz. The Sue and Gary Padgett indoor down the right field line. We've got our pitching lab down there, and then a couple cages. But we are we're not the only team in the country that gets affected by weather, and I don't know what percent. I'd have to go back and look, Keegan, but such a high number of games that we play every year are affected by weather in some way, whether it's lightning or rain or cold or super hot or whatever it is. So, we use these opportunities as, we've done a really good job from day one of not worrying about day two and really just being locked in on what we can do that day. And so I think our guys just kind of wake up and figure out what the schedule is and then attack that day, and then, kind of hope that we get the next one. So the guys have worked really hard. They've crushed it in the weight room. They were all gone for Christmas break and did a fantastic job and came back in shape. So we're chomping at the bit.
Yep. That definitely seemed like a motto for you guys last year of one day at a time, one inning at a time, one play at a time, only worry about what's in front of you. And that good season. Picked up where you guys left off the previous year with that momentum at the end of the year. Maybe 2 or 3 innings go a little differently, and we're talking a little bit deeper run in the postseason there, not just in the Big 12 tournament, but possibly a college baseball World Series trip there, which I think there were a lot of fans that were really hoping that final stretch there, that the last 2 weeks of the season, the way you guys were playing, would be enough to kick you over, but just not quite there. But obviously looking to build that momentum heading into this year. Well, your guys' season kicks off here in a couple weeks, but you've got this upcoming first pitch banquet. I wanted to give you a chance to just talk a little bit about, a week from now, Friday night. What is this first pitch banquet? Why should fans be interested, and why should they get involved?
So my first year here, I was on a trip with Adam Sykes, one of our development guys and a great friend, and we were doing some work together, and we're just spurring some ideas on how to continue to raise the bar in terms of interest and really educating our fan base and connecting to all the former players. You look at KU, and there's whether it's Coach Price's guys, Coach Bingham's guys, Coach Randall's guys, you go through the years, and they're very distinct groups, and connecting with each of those groups has been something that we thought, gosh, we got to do that right away. And all those coaches have been so good to me in this transition. And so I mentioned off the cuff at DBU and LSU that we had, beginning of the year banquets, first pitch banquets, or whatever you want to call it. And about 48 hours later, I had a Zoom invite to a first pitch banquet meeting. So Adam kind of ran with it, and we just had such an outpouring of interest in year one. We brought back Rob Thompson, manager of the Phillies, who played at KU, and he crushed it. He's one of the most dynamic. Well, I don't think you get to be a big league manager by accident. So there's a reason that Derek Jeter and A-Rod refer to him as the most important piece in their development as young players. And then, last year, Dayton Moore, assistant GM with the Rangers and former GM of the Royals, just fantastic. And again, another guy that just brought so much insight and again, just another awesome outpouring. So the good news is we've crushed it with our special guest. The bad news is you just got to grind it out to find people that can match that. And we're super excited this year. We have Bob Kendrick from the Negro League Museum in Kansas City. And, when I think of the most influential people in the game of baseball currently, like right now, 2025, Bob's in the top 5, period. He has done so much for baseball. He has done so much for the restoration of and the bringing to life the Negro Leagues. The museum is just incredible, and he's in MLB The Show. I mean, he's a total rock star, and he's the greatest storyteller I've ever met. He's amazing. So when we asked him and he accepted, I thought, gosh, we're making this so hard now to find these guys because we keep bringing in these incredible guys. So really, the point of the banquet is to just celebrate all the former players, introduce our team to all of our fans, and to continue to connect the dots on all the former players and all the fans out there. And it's funny, at the end of the season, Keegan, I was out on our field on a recruiting call, and I looked up into the stands, and there was a bunch of chipped paint along the foot guards or whatever you want, kick plates behind the seats. And it was really the first time that I had noticed it. And then I realized the reason it was the first time I had noticed it is we pack the place out every time we play now. The fans have been incredible, and you don't get to see the bleachers during one of our games because there are so many fans. And I think the interest, the excitement, the ticket sales, the attendance, what's going on in youth baseball in Lawrence and kind of some of the excitement that comes with that. It's just we're trying to really capitalize on the wave of excitement and the fact that we're still growing this thing. And you said it earlier, you look at 2 or 3 innings away from being in the NCAA tournament, and we really were. And you can pinpoint just a couple things. Now, the bad news with that is you can pinpoint those things, and you can also very easily pinpoint some other stuff that we didn't take care of. But the fact that you can pinpoint it is a really good thing, because if you think about the year before, there wasn't hey man, we're just 2 or 3 plays away, versus last year we were, and we feel like we've continued to upgrade. So we've still got room at the first pitch banquet. We're running out of seats, but we still have some, and information is on X and on our website, and I'll make sure that BP tweets that out again today. But
yes, hey, just as we're talking, you guys just posted about the banquet on Facebook. So $100 a ticket for general admission. You can get kids tickets for $50. A lot of cool things that happen at the banquet. Heck, just going to see Bob Kendrick talk stories for a while
he's a national treasure, Keegan. He's unbelievable.
Yeah,
he's absolutely unbelievable.
In addition to that, you guys also have an auction going on. So I was pulling up here on Live Source, just some of the things that are still out there for fans to bid on. You've got KU basketball courtside package tickets. You've got national championship chairs you can bid on. Hoagland Ballpark chairbacks you can bid on. A hot dog race experience, that's always fun. First pitch experience. You got all sorts of things. Parts of the field, former parts of the field. If you're a Baltimore Orioles fan, you got a Jordan Westberg package that you can bid on right now. So there's still a lot of things on there. Go check it out over on KU Baseball's Facebook page, Kansas Athletics page. You can find it all over. I'll post it in our comment section here below too. Some of the links that is next week, Friday, January 24th, 6:30. I'm hoping I can get there myself too. I'm looking forward to it. I think this will be a lot of fun. Just to sit around and talk baseball with a bunch of guys. But speaking of baseball, let's get into the team. As we reflect back real quickly on last season, again, you guys finished strong, 31 wins, finished kind of middle of the pack in the Big 12, but really, like we said, there's about 2 or 3 innings that if they just go differently, you're sitting second, maybe third in the Big 12, possibly winning the Big 12 championship tournament. Very, very strong top half of the Big 12 last year. I think we definitely saw some massive improvements from you guys throughout the season. There was a little rocky stretch early, middle part of the season, and then you guys were really starting to click down the stretch, and the offense was just coming in. So the benefits of having a good season means your players are doing well. The sad part is some of those guys have to move on. And, for you guys, you had a program record, 6 guys get drafted in the top 20 rounds in the MLB draft and 2 more guys sign. Why don't you just take a second and reflect on the success of that happening? I know you said in several interviews before that you were anticipating some of those guys leaving, but there weren't very many scenarios where all of them were leaving. And pretty much all of them did, except for Michael Brooks with his injury recovery. But yeah, talk to me a little bit about those guys, how special it means for you guys as a program to send that much talent on moving forward, and then the challenge it is of having to replace that immediately.
Right. We're development based in everything we do, and so when you come here, we talk about we've got to be great at recruiting, we have to be great at developing, we've got to be great at culture, we got to be great at all those things. And when you do the development piece right, guys get better. And when you recruit the right guys that get the development piece, they get way better. And so I think the fact that we had 6 guys drafted, 2 guys signed as free agents, and then you mentioned it, the only reason Brooksy's here today is his injury last year. And honestly, probably the reason we didn't play in the NCAA tournament was Michael's injury. Brooksy was certainly in the conversation for Big 12 Player of the Year at that point. And so I think there's a human side to being a coach, and then there's a business side, X's and O's side, and the human side. I want to see all these guys go on and play professional baseball. They dream of it, they work at it. Every kid envisions themselves playing in a World Series and hitting a grand slam or striking a guy out to win it. And so to be a part of that journey with these guys is really special. And to do it with guys, where it's their first time getting drafted. It's not like, Cody Shojunaga was on 0 draft boards out of high school. Ben Hartle was on 0 draft boards out of high school. Evan Shaw, Ethan Lanthier, on and on. And so I think in my experience of doing this for, I used to think I was a young coach, Keegan. Then I think about how many years I've been doing this, and I'm not as young as I think I am anymore. But in all my years of doing this, it's just my experience that not all of them get drafted and signed, and not all of them come back. And so there's always this balance. Well, I was way wrong last year. They did all get drafted, and we had this plan in place, and John and Brandon and Tyler and Ryan had done a phenomenal job of saying, all right, and we had gone through it 100 times. Okay, if Hartle gets drafted, what are we going to do? If Shaw gets drafted, what are we going to do? If Lanthier gets drafted, what are we going to do? Because we knew a bunch of those guys were going to be day 3 guys. Shoj, we thought was going to be day 2. And I had 2 flights set up. I had one up to Minneapolis to go see Lanthier and Shaw, and I had one to Hawaii to go see Shoj. If Shoj got to day 3, I was going to go to Hawaii and sit down with his family. And when he went in the 6th or wherever he went, I knew he was going to sign. So day 3, when those guys started to pop, we were John had us placed perfectly where we had been sitting on Max Solis for a couple days, watching him play. Hartle gets drafted. We know he's going to sign. We had Solis on campus within 48 hours of that. And then, multiple examples of that on the pitching side as well. So there's the business side of you better have a plan, because if you get, stuck with 6 guys gone and 2 guys signing as free agents and you don't have a plan for it, that's the recipe for, a tough next year. So I thought our plan was fantastic. John did an amazing job of setting it up. Brandon, Tyler, Ryan, everyone was in position, and we responded well. There are 2 parts to it that you're bummed out about. One, those guys make such a great impact. Like Ben Hartle made a great impact on our program. He's a great guy. He's a great Jayhawk. And the second part is you're just bummed out you don't get to be around him. You don't get to coach him. You don't get to you don't get to see them reap the reward of their success as a Jayhawk. You get to see them grow and reap the reward on the professional side. But so, a guy like Brooksy, there's some real joy in having him back, because he's going to look back on his life someday and say, man, I was there at the beginning. I don't know. We signed Brooksy probably 2 weeks after we got hired. He's been with us for literally everything the whole way. So it's a double-edged sword, man. You want your guys to get drafted. You want them to sign. What would be really helpful if the draft wasn't in the middle of the summer after the portal was closed. So there are some things we need to figure out as an organization of coaches to make it a little bit easier on ourselves. But we had a great plan. We put into place, and the cool part is we were able to celebrate it with those guys as well, and have a lot of joy for their success.
Yeah. I know projecting out a player's career, especially in baseball, is so tough. You have guys that get drafted as the end of the draft that in 2 years figured out, and you have guys that go first round that tend to struggle. But if you had to look at your group of guys that just went and projected out the guys that are going to really have the biggest impact in the right organization situation, which of those guys do you think has the potential to carve out a nice role in the MLB?
I think both, when you look on the position on the hitter side, Shoj and Hartle both being drafted as catchers, which the robbery of the draft was Jake English not getting drafted. I still can't come to terms with that. Now, Jake had some opportunities to sign professionally and actually really recently, and just decided that he's at a different spot in his career, and super proud of him. And he's unbelievably mature and was arguably our best player last year, and first team all Big 12 catcher. But the two guys that were drafted as catchers, they can both hit. And if you look at catching in the big leagues, I mean, there are plenty of guys making, 8 figures a year who are, hitting 245, but they can catch and throw. And I think Ben is incredibly versatile and a really good defender, and sees the ball really well. And he just doesn't chase, and that's kind of the name of the game in professional baseball period. Shoj, same vein. Like, if you look at Shoj's stats, the most impressive thing with what he's done over his entire career is walk. Mm-hmm. He walks at an alarming rate, and did it in the pro ball too, like brought that with him. So they're both workers. So I think both those guys, because they're at a primo position where if you can do anything offensively, you rise to the top. I think those two are in really good shape. Yep. I think Cranton has a shot to pitch in the big leagues this summer. He is, he's fantastic. He had a great summer out in pro ball, and they love him. He's such a high-end competitor, and the thing that I love about Cranton is I think there are some guys that have a question mark behind some thoughts, and then there are guys that have an exclamation mark behind some thoughts. And Cranton just has a really, really solid dot period after his. Like, I think if we hooked Cranton up to a lie detector right now and asked him if he's a big leaguer, he'd be like, yeah, I mean, I should probably pitch on opening night. Like, that's just who he is confidence wise. So I think he's the guy that has probably the quickest route to the big leagues. But then you throw Shaw in there too. He's left-handed, and he's incredibly dominant against lefties, and it's a slider. And there's such a primo for left-handed relievers in professional baseball. Lanth is kind of in that vein as well. He's big and physical, and throws the mess out of it. So, I think we've got a bunch of guys that will progress and move quickly. And I think the biggest reason they will is their makeup, their work ethic, and what kind of teammates they are.
Yep. So you lose a good chunk of talent, a good chunk of that core, but you still have a good group of guys returning with some great experience. Even a guy like Ty Wisdom as a freshman got to see a lot of playing time last year. Of course, you got Kazuski coming back, Big 12 freshman of the year, back-to-back freshman of the year for the program, and Dominic Vagley coming in. who should take over that role and kind of be that Friday night star that we're looking forward to. Of course, Michael Brooks, you talked about guys like Chase Diggins, Daniel Thrumper. Talk about the team coming in this year. You bring in some outside pieces. I think for me, I think Brady Council is going to be a very interesting piece here, very versatile guy that can plug in multiple places. I saw, on your Fitz Fridays talk a couple weeks ago with Brian Haney, you called your team pretty old. You got a lot of old guys, but guys that are really hungry to get the job done now. So you're in a very win now type of feel. But yeah, talk to me about this group coming in this year, how you're plugging in those holes that are left by the guys moving on, and with some of these guys coming in, and maybe some of these expectation increases from the returners.
Sure. Yeah, I think that was kind of when you dive into the pool of let's go the route of the portal and JUCO in that first summer, which we really had to.
Mm-hmm.
There was we needed to put together a team that first summer. I mean, we couldn't have scrimmaged day one. We had a couple infielders and we needed massive help on the mound. And so we added whatever it was. I think we committed 22 guys that summer. And, and it was very intentional to be old. And a guy like Cole Elvis, who came in and led right away and did a fantastic job. Collier Cranford coming with me from LSU did an unbelievable job. The good news, those guys are great. The bad news is that they're old, and so they're gone quickly. And so when you look at recruiting, I think you have to pick a lane sometimes. And I've always, throughout the course of my career, just looked at the lens of best available. Like, we're not to get super deep here, Keegan, but we're not promised tomorrow in any way. And so, I've just tried to live where my feet are. And I think the guys who are even year one, when we were certainly not nearly as talented as we needed to be to compete in the Big 12, we still owed it to those guys to win now. Like, there was no, I don't like the idea or the term of rebuilding or whatever, because the guys that are here, it's their shot. Cole Elvis deserved everything that we had to try to win year one. And so we emptied the tank there. We did it again year two. And then, we lost some great pieces last year, but we crushed it in the junior college recruiting. We crushed it in the portal. And, people have asked a ton about, us doing that. And then I'm quick to, probably a little defensive about to say, yeah, but we've had back-to-back Big 12 freshmen of the year too. So it's not that we don't. I would love to get freshmen. I'd love to get 10 freshmen every year. The problem is with the changing landscape of the NCAA, the roster limits, the house case, all those things. There are 24-year-olds who have eligibility to play college sports, and that 18-year-old might be more talented and might be a better player in 10 years. But, in terms of winning a Big 12 series and having a professional at bat 3 months from now, a 24-year-old has had 1,000 of those. And, I grew up in Minnesota and was a hockey guy. And if you look at the hockey model of college athletics, all those guys go and play juniors. They play for 2 or 3 years, and then they go to the Division I route. And so college hockey is really old. And we've kind of, I guess, modeled a little bit after that, which I think, by the way, more and more teams are now doing. And now, I'm not saying we were trendsetters or we figured, out the matrix or anything. But when you look at the Pavia case and JUCO guys getting another year of eligibility, it's just harder and harder to play. So the portal was great to us. We were able to get a couple guys we got a guy from Mankato State named Jackson Hauge, who's a fantastic player. Sawyer Smith, St. Cloud State, where John Ned and Ethan Lanthier were from. So a couple guys from the D2 ranks who, again, had fantastic years and crushed it in the Northwoods League. And then really had to address the bullpen. Our bullpen was great last year, but it was really short. We had 3 guys we kind of used to get to Cranton, and Cooper Moore being one of them, who were trying to start this year. So we knew that we had to address some bullpen things really fast. And so we went out and Malachi Vitak is a kid from Creighton who can really spin it. Connor Magai has been absolutely fantastic for us. Jake Kubler, has been amazing. And then, the guy that probably helps me sleep a little bit better every night knowing that he's back is Daniel Trumper. If you remember 2 years ago, Trumper was second in the Big 12 in appearances, medical redshirted last year, and, is fully back. And
that's huge.
We crushed it on trying to repiece that bullpen. And then, but some awesome pieces like Don Bagley's starting on Friday night. Like that's a pretty easy one to write in. Cooper Moore, fantastic freshman year. He's ready to take the jump to be a starter. Patrick Stites was, got injured last year, but is well on his way to rehabbing himself back. And then, we were just intentional on best available and then recruiting specific to the needs that we had. And so, I think we've got a really fun balance of gritty, tough returners, who just know how things work, and then some really hungry, tough incoming guys who are really thankful to be at this level and ready to prove something.
Yep. So 2025, what do you guys got to do this year to take that next step and push you over the top? Keep building upon that momentum, but maybe take that next step forward. Find yourself in an invite to Omaha later in the year, or winning a Big 12 championship. What does that progression look like for you guys this year, and how are we going to accomplish it?
Yeah, I think it's multifaceted. I think the big one is I think in any build or any rebuild or whatever you want to call it, I think there's a tendency to forget what you're doing and forget what got you here. And I think what got us to a spot where we're in a spot to take another jump is we haven't gotten ahead of ourselves. We haven't thought about next year. We haven't thought about who we play in April. Truth be told, unless I look up our schedule, I don't really know who we have after week 4. And I know we start Big 12 play after that, but to me, we've got a whole first part of a season before we even get there. So I think we have to continue to stay in the present and take care of business today, knowing that how we work today is really going to impact how we play on February 14th, which, by the way, is less than a month away. And then I think the other piece is, tell the guys all the time that in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you were and where you are. And you have to connect those dots to see if the trajectory is in the right spot. And, if you look at our trajectory last year, it was, our goal was to play our best baseball at the end of the year. Now, when I say goal, like I didn't make a t-shirt that says like good in June or whatever, like I'm terrible at that stuff, Keegan, but, I think we got to where we needed to be playing our best baseball at the end. The problem was we missed some opportunities earlier, and when it's things that you can't control, I don't lose a whole lot of sleep over that. But when it's things you can control, effort, attitude, intensity, preparedness, those are the things that, take days off my life. And I think we've done a good job of saying, hey, let's learn from the past. And what were those things last year that affected us in a way that didn't allow our best baseball at the end of the year to be in a spot where we could punch it through? Because the reality is, getting to a Big 12 semifinal game, we're up 6-0 going into the 5th. We get 2 outs at 6-2, and we can't get out of the 5th. Well, we can point to that and say, man, if we win that game, we're playing for a Big 12 championship. Well, we didn't win that game. And the reason we didn't win that game is because there were things that happened earlier in the year and earlier in that series where Lanthier wasn't available right there. Mm-hmm. Cranton wasn't available right there. Shaw wasn't available right there because those guys had already pitched. So I think to be where our feet are, to work like today's the only day we get, and then to have a real respect, not I want to be handcuffed by history, but a real humble respect for the past of, okay, where did it go wrong? And then are we going to have the humility to address that? And I think that's been the fun part for me as the head coach here, is to look program wide and see some of the veterans, see a Chase Diggins, a Michael Brooks, Don Vagley, a Cooper Moore, and to see some of these guys address some things where I don't have to, or to see my staff address something where I don't have to. Like there were times this fall at practice, Keegan, where I'm like, gosh, I'm really not doing anything right now. I'm literally watching a practice and all the cogs are moving in the right direction. And so I think it's a real intentionality. And then I think a patience too, because I think, I've joked about this with my wife that, you have to be impatient to get this job, and follow me with this, but throughout your career, like you can't be a good recruiting coordinator if you don't have a certain level of just, I don't know, impatience, I guess is what I call. There's a intensity and hey, got to do it now. And how do we do it? And how do we do it? And how do we do it? And there's an obsessive compulsive component of it. And then when you get a job like this, you have to hit a switch and become really patient, because it does take time. And if you skip steps, it bites you in the butt. And so we haven't skipped a single one. We've been so intentional about stepping on every single rung on the way up. But now we are at a spot where we've climbed high enough where we can kind of cut the guys loose to compete. And that's what excites me the most.
Yep. I think it's going to be a fun season. I think there's a lot to look forward to, as long as the weather gives us some proper spring baseball outings. I look forward to that. I want to end here with just some baseball isms, just some typical things about baseball. Get your takes on them as a coach, former player, and just being around the game yourself every day. When you go to the ballpark to watch a game, what are your go-to ballpark snacks?
It's changed so much. I went to a Royals game this summer with my kids, and there's some it's like gourmet now. You can get there. I had some nachos over at the K that were, Bobby Flay might have been back there putting them together. They were incredible. So I love nachos. I love popcorn. I have popcorn all the time, but it's got to be. I'm kind of a popcorn snob, and I hate to say that, but it's got to be good. Like I don't like microwave popcorn. Like I want to see it popped and like see it shoveled into the bag. I out recruiting. I rarely eat at the ballpark, probably because I don't want a huge mustard stain on my shirt or whatever. But this summer in the Northwoods League, I hammered a bratwurst up in Wisconsin. So, I'm kind of
you have to. If you're in Wisconsin, that's the go-to.
When in Rome is kind of my deal at every ballpark. I was in San Francisco years ago and had some garlic fries. Had cheese curds in Milwaukee. I try to do the local fare.
How about a choice of seeds or chewing gum in the dugout?
Neither.
Okay. See, I don't know how anybody can do either while they're playing.
Yeah. I like bubble gum, I guess, if we have good bubble gum. But again, good bubble gum lasts like 7 pitches.
Yep.
So
and it's done.
And you can, with how much we're in a dugout, get some cavities real fast. So no, seeds are great, but actually pumpkin seeds. But now everywhere we play has turf, and so you can't really spit seeds on the turf. Guys still do, but it's a bad look.
One of the things that cracks me up about baseball players in the summertime is that no matter how hot it is outside, you look down to that bullpen and there's 4 or 5 guys sitting there in a sweatshirt. So how hot does it have to be for you before that sweatshirt is not part of game day apparel?
My life is so different now, because when I coach third, which is my favorite thing in the world to do, coaching wise, but it makes more sense for me to be in the dugout, and Tyler does a fantastic job at third. Although every year I think about just making the move back out there. But when I coached third, I wore the jersey all the time. And when I'm in shape, I wear the jersey. So I think that's the better way to say it. If I'm feeling like I'm in shape, I wear the jersey. But if I feel like I'm out of shape, I wear the sweatshirt. But the other thing is, in the dugout, man, you're usually in the shade. And so when I was out on the field and the sun's hitting the turf, it could be 40, 38 degrees, but it's 10 degrees warmer sitting on the turf. When you're in the shade of the dugout, it's kind of spooky cold. So the other thing is I like wearing sleeves just because I'm in the sun so much and have been for so long that, you think about, when you get to be in your mid 40s, man, you start thinking about stuff like wearing sunscreen and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm gonna put before the season, I'm gonna put a number that if it's above that number, I'm not wearing a sweatshirt.
I think
I'll let you know what it is.
I'd throw out there 60. If it's above 60, you can't do the sweatshirt. If it's below 60, you gotta do the sweatshirt. Because if you're getting that sun, it's warm enough. Now, if you switch the sweatshirt for the sleeves like you're talking about underneath, I think that's a different story. But the full on hooded sweatshirt I see guys in, and it's 85, 90 degrees out there. I can't.
Yeah.
understand that.
And no, we can't. I'm not into hoods. I think hoods are eyewash, man. Like growing up in Minnesota, like if you want to wear a full blown winter hat, I'm cool with that. But hoods, like the air still gets in. I don't know if those even work. I think that's just more flair.
All right. From a coaching perspective, there's two ways you could win a game. I want you to tell me which way you would prefer. Complete game shutout or walk-off grand slam.
What's the score of the CG shutout?
1-0.
Oh my God.
It doesn't. I guess it wouldn't matter.
The worst idea I've ever heard, man. 1-0. That takes 3 months off your life. Man, walk-offs. There's nothing better than a walk-off. Shutouts are the walk-off of pitching. 5 years ago I would have said walk-off grand slam because the only time I ever thought about pitchers was when I was recruiting them. But now as a head coach, I think about pitching 23 and a half hours a day. So, man, I don't know. I hate to be Switzerland here, but I'm sitting right in the middle. I'm going.
I think that's fair because as a fan, you want to see the offense, you want to see the explosion. But when you talk about just the game of baseball, when you see a pitcher just go out there and just dominate for 27 outs and just gets the job done, that's a legit arm on the field right there. That's fun to watch. How about from a player's perspective? What do you think is a higher pressure situation? The guy that's got to come in the bottom of the ninth, close it out, or the guys that are coming up in the bottom ninth to go out there and get the win?
I think closing it out. I think you have to be wired differently to close, and you've got to have really, really short memory and be able to forget stuff real fast. But I think the guys that love that, like I think Cranton was a train wreck when he started. He was a train wreck. I'd see him walking around the hotel at like 6:15 in the morning, and I'm like, dude, we play in 12 hours. As a reliever, he was great because he could get to the park and knew that he wasn't throwing for a few hours, so he could kind of amp himself up. The coach answer is we hope our guys have prepared enough that they love that. And I think one of the things we talk to our guys about all the time is, those nerves or that pressure that you feel is literally adrenaline. It's just how you're thinking about it. And, if I've always said, if it's a game day and I don't feel it, that's probably a pretty good indicator that I need to be a duck hunting guide up in North Dakota or something. Because I think that adrenaline hit and those butterflies you feel are the sign of a really high care factor.
Yep. All right, last one for you. Day game or night game?
Night game. Yeah, night game. As a player, night game for sure, not even close. As a coach, there's a part of you on a day game that is fired up because your prep for the next day is a little bit easier versus like when we play on a Friday night, and you're in a hotel, it's get back to the hotel and immediately dive into the next day. When it's and then you're up super early Saturday, and then you win Saturday, you can, when we're 2-0 in a series, Saturday night's a great night. You grab dinner with your staff and kind of prep a little easy, not easier in terms of the prep, but the timeline for it is not as nutty. So in terms of just straight up baseball, enjoying it, I think a night game I'd pick it every time.
Yep, especially those Friday nights. Those Friday night games are fun.
Yes.
Well, first pitch on the season comes up in February 14th, just a couple weeks away down in Corpus Christi. Obviously, we got the first pitch banquet next week, next Friday night. And then, a little over a month from now, we got the first home game at Hoagland Ballpark, February 27th. So the season's coming up quick. It's always great when it's wintertime, but then you start thinking about, from the MLB perspective, pitchers and catchers are starting to report here soon. And then as soon as that notification goes out there, it's bam, we're full on into baseball season. So looking forward to it. Hope you guys have a tremendous season and pick up where you guys left off and just take it on from there. Thanks again for coming on again with me today. And again, would love to do some more of this down in the future, but appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure and appreciate it, man. We'll see you out here soon.
Thanks. Sounds good. We'll see you later. Rock Chalk.